Hello, welcome to the very first Drop Your Shorts with Tony Savero. I'm Tony Savero, writer-director. Basically, each episode a different guest and I will be watching and discussing random short films sent in by you, the viewer. Any genre, any subject, as long as it's around 5 minutes or less. But if you would like to know what a couple of assholes on a couch think of your work, send your stuff to dropyourshortshere@gmail.com.
Mi scusi.
Now, before we start, I'd just like to thank our sponsors. Today's episode was brought to you by that guy who sits right next to you in a movie theater, even though it's completely empty. Personal space? Fuck you. And every Zooey Deschanel film that she somehow forces her goddamn singing into.
And pretty soon all my troubles will
So really I'd better try to do and make it just a happy sunshine.
Hey! Zooey! We get it!
Old MacDonald had a farm.
Let's get on with the show. Today's guest was a part of creating one of the most influential horror movies of our time, changing independent filmmaking forever. The Blair Witch Project not only scared the living shit out of me as a kid, but kind of jump-started my passion for storytelling. Since then, he was an associate producer on Victor Crowley. He directed Alien Raiders, 20 Seconds to Live, White Racist Zombies, starring Phil Lamar and Wayne Brady. He may be running a little late today, but I'm pretty excited about our first guest. I hope I don't have any bugs. Man, I can't believe we landed the Ben Rock. I mean, Ben Rock. Ben Rock. Ben Rock. Ben Rock. Jesus Christ! We're, ladies and gentlemen, Ben Rock. Thank you for coming, man.
That's good luck.
Yeah, this is a bit of an experiment, so I appreciate your time. I don't know how this is gonna go.
Pleasure to be here, and I'm excited to be experimented upon.
Oh shit, college. So yeah, you're no stranger to short films. You were part of 20 Seconds to Live.
Yeah, co-created 20 Seconds to Live.
How did that come about?
Bob DeRosa, who is the guy that we wrote Video Palace together.
Right.
Bob and I had been doing late night goofwad theater at a company called Sacred Fools for years.
Okay.
We've known each other for, God, almost 25 years, I think, by now. And one day we were talking, we're like, you know, if we put a little more effort into these late night goofwad shows that we make, we could like have a film that we could show people. And so we started just kind of coming up with ideas. We had both just worked, he as a writer and me as a director, on a web series called Firsts.
Okay.
That my friend Courtney Rackley had created. And I directed 2 episodes and Bob had written one. I didn't direct the episode he wrote. But we both were kind of like, oh, you can like make something that looks, you know, as cinematic as you can imagine, as I'm sure you know.
Right.
With like, you don't need a huge crew or whatever, and like, you know, we're just shooting it on DSLRs and stuff. And so, but one of the problems that we had encountered on that was that because it had the same cast, that became like a scheduling headache for them, because it's like they had to wait till everybody was available because there's no real money in it. And so we were like, what if we did an anthology, like a Twilight Zone thing, so like we don't ever need the same cast.
Yeah.
And after bouncing around for a while, we came up with the idea of just, you know, kind of an anthology, and you know that at the end of every episode, somebody's gonna die, but you don't know who.
I love the setups to it as well, like right off the bat, and the countdown and everything.
Yeah. Well, the countdown was something that I had pitched them, and everybody was, him and our producer Kat, and they were like, I don't know if that'll work, and I'm like, I think it's gonna totally work, and then I mocked it up in the first edit.
It's perfect too that you kind of give each short the amount of setup that it needs regardless of time, and then you reach a certain point where it's like, okay, you got 20 seconds now.
Exactly.
I love that.
When it plays into, the whole idea kind of revolves around a theory of mine, which is if you're gonna make something for people to watch on the internet, keep it outrageously short, because nobody has any attention span. Like, I think our longest episode is like 3.5 minutes long, and that's Heartless, and it's got Graham Skipper in it. But we have 2 episodes that are 1.5 minutes long. And season 2, I think all the episodes are around 2.5 minutes.
How did you end up getting Aeroscope involved and stuff?
Aeroscope, so I was on Adam Green and Joe Lynch's podcast, The Movie Crit.
Yeah, it was a great episode.
And they were interviewing me about stuff. And then afterwards, I was kind of talking to Adam about it, and I asked him if he would watch. At that point, we'd already shot 5 episodes, shot and edited 5 episodes, and we didn't know where they were going to.
Oh, even before they got involved.
Oh yeah, way
wow.
before Adam got involved. And so, so flash forward a few months after that, I don't remember exactly when it was, But Bob was listening to it. It was an episode I hadn't heard yet, but somebody on there asked Adam if he'd ever considered having somebody else make a web series for him, because he was doing Scary Sleepover, and I don't think he'd done Horrified yet. And he said, well, I just don't know, like, it's just hard to find someone who you can trust, blah, blah, blah. And so I was like, I know Adam well enough, sent Adam an email and said, like, hey, would you be interested in this? And you know, he'd already seen the first 5 and he liked them, and he said, you know, I'd be interested if we did 2 more. So at least he preferred 8, but we settled at the number of 7. You know, like there wasn't money, no money was changing.
I mean, it was
hands
cool
at
that
all.
you had something to show them though, like
Oh,
instead
yeah.
of just a concept, like, hey, this is
Exactly.
it. This is it right here.
Yeah, exactly. It was most of the season was there. So we shot 2 episodes, Evil Doll and Ransom, which we actually shot Ransom at Ariscope. And Adam's in that one too. And you know, Adam was super helpful. He got us Tom Holland to be in the Evil Doll episode.
How was that? How was working with him?
He's awesome. Well, we knew we only had him for like an hour and a half.
Oh, really?
He was flying in. He was like at a film festival overseas, or I don't know. He was out of town.
Yeah.
And basically, we had to send a car to pick him up, drove him over, and like he didn't really know us. He knew he was doing it for Adam. And Bob kind of always says like,
So Adam wasn't even there?
Adam wasn't there that day, no. But Bob said that he kind of felt like he gave us this very narrow window in case we were fuck-ups, so that he could get out.
and out,
And
yeah.
it's like he got there, we had a makeup artist for him, whatever, and I basically made it clear to everyone on the cast and crew that like as soon as he got there, we're shooting all his stuff and then going back into our other stuff. He was wonderful, and I mean like Fright Night was kind of my gateway drug movie as a kid. That was the horror movie that made me a horror fan. So to be able to work with him, like I was nerding out, and I'm sure that he's around a lot of 40-something guys who nerd out over him. Yeah, there you go, there you go. He was wonderful, and I don't think we kept him too long, but he actually hung out a little while after we were done with
nice.
him. Also, like when I had a cut of it, I emailed it to him to get notes.
Yeah.
And he gave me a couple of useful thoughts, but he mostly liked it. It was like,
More voodoo.
it just you know, I mean, like I've been lucky enough over the years to get to work with people like him or Stuart Gordon and kind of get to know some of these people who are my heroes.
I'm sure you're probably sick and tired of talking about Blair Witch at this
Oh
point.
no, I'll talk about
But,
Blair. I'll bore the shit out.
But I do have a question that I've always wondered though.
Okay.
Being a part of such a massive success so early in your career,
Oh, yeah.
how do you view that? Like, obviously you wouldn't change anything for the world, but looking back on that.
I've thought about this exact thing a lot. I sometimes think that if Blair Witch had been like a solid box office base hit, like let's say it made $10 million, that would have been outrageously successful for a movie of that budget at that time. I feel like it would have made the world hungry for anyone who had anything to do with it. It wouldn't have been as good for my bank account at the time.
Sure,
And you know, all the other guys who worked on it, you know, the same thing. But I feel like it would have opened up doors that wouldn't have necessarily opened for us, but people wouldn't have been like I remember one time I had a meeting after Blair Witch came out, and when the guy found out that I'd worked on Blair Witch, he's like, oh, you're the guy who fucked up Rennie Harlan's directing career. And I'm like, what?
What?
Bob Shea was quite sure that I was going to ruin the series. Watching the dailies and so on, I think he thought that this was going to be the end of the series, that this was just going to be the worst film ever.
Well, Deep Blue Sea, in their opinion, bombed because Blair Witch came out like 2 or 3 weeks after it came out and stole the horror audience. And it's like, you know,
They're the same movie basically.
they are pretty
So,
much, yeah, and with the same resources.
Oh yeah.
This is not a finished product.
That looks like a bunch of sticks tied together.
Sam Jackson was in both.
We cut all the water tank scenes out and all the CGI.
These motherfucking sharks.
But really, in answer to your question, like, you know, obviously I wouldn't change a thing, but I think it helps and it hinders, but I think it's just like anything else.
It's got to be kind of hard to like overcome them. Like, I have all these other ideas, man. I know technically you were credited with being the production designer on that,
Yeah.
but like you had a lot to do with the lore and the.
I wrote a lot of the
writing,
backstory. I mean, like
essentially.
Ed and Dan and Greg, to a degree, had come up with a bunch of the
Totally,
backstory.
yeah.
But like I fleshed it out. I named all the characters. I kind of built the mythology. I wrote Curse of the Blair Witch for Savero.
Excuse me. Keeping all this. I'm a little.
Oh man. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Is that
Gross.
good?
It's good.
But we're gonna move on to short films here. So the very first one coming up, I believe, is kind of like a actually perfect, a found footage.
All right.
So it should
Ooh.
seem a little familiar. Yeah, you can
All
go ahead and
right.
hit play on that. So cool. So it looks like a Paranormal Activity
I had
kind
this
of
exact idea.
thing.
Oh.
Oh yeah, dude.
Oh wait, that's me. Oh, what a buffoon. And he's wearing AirPods. What a douche nozzle.
I was wondering what that was. I was like, does he have sweet earrings on? What is happening?
Hey y'all, it's me, your old pal Satan. Now I know what you're thinking. Dang it, yet another device on the friggin' fritz again. But I'm just here to let you know that the fine folks over at Drop Your Shorts, they ran into some technical difficulties. Of course, before they even made it to the short film segment, you know, the whole point of the damn show. I mean, I guess it is the first episode, so I'm gonna go ahead and give them a little break this time. But if it happens again, I'll rape their souls for the rest of eternity. Anywho, here are a couple of shorts from two of my favorite filmmakers. First up, Keyboard and Mouse by Bob Rose from Baltimore, Maryland. If you're looking for some top-notch electronics, I may know just the guys. I've heard of smashing that like button, but this is ridiculous. Nothing I love more than a little aggravated assault. But let's find out what a real artist thinks. Here's a voicemail from filmmaker Ben Rock.
Hey, Tony, it's Ben, obviously. Just responding to the 11 missed calls from you. A little weird, but you wanted to know what I thought about Keyboard and Mouse. Well, I really liked it. I thought it was fun. Super anarchic and cool, and I like a short that takes a really simple concept and makes it work like that. Really, really cool. So yeah, I hope that's what you're looking for. And how about in the future we just communicate through my agent from now on? All right. You might want to lose my number.
Wise words from the stickman himself. Now, up next we've got Uno by Alex Henderson. A little trip back into the woods for our lovely guest.
Not too camera shy, are we?
Guess she's not very photogenic. But let's check back in with our colleague of commentary, Mr. Ben Rock.
Alright, man. Have you been creeping outside my house? The maid said she saw some lanky weirdo in our backyard. Kind of matched your description. Not the best social graces or something. I forget what she said. Look, if I tell you what I think about the short Uno, will you finally leave me alone? I mean, my basic thought is like, I love the concept. I'm a big fan of old Super 8 shorts. The first short I ever made in my life is called Vapor Man, and I shot it on Super 8. I think it's a shame that we don't have enough Super 8 around these days. I think it's a really cool concept. I think it looks cool. I really enjoyed it. I think whoever made it should keep going. They've got a real eye, and they've got some pretty interesting concepts. So that's it. I did exactly what you asked. So please stop calling me, and I better not see you lurking around my house any. Jesus, who's there? God damn it!
Well, alright, looks like that's our show. Before we go, I'd just like to thank our filmmakers for sending in their work, all of you guys for watching, and of course, our wonderful guest, Ben Rock. Not just for his time, but more importantly, his soul. We'll be in touch. In the meantime, make sure y'all keep an eye out for Season 2 of 20 Seconds to Live over at ariscope.com, and if you haven't already, go listen to the Shudder original podcast, Video Palace. That's all for now. Don't worry, I'll be seeing you real soon. Shit.
strong woman who could survive in these very harsh conditions and do her job. And at the same time, of course, because it's a movie, she's also really, really attractive and nice to look at. So, why go to movies to look at